There are moments in an administrator's career when statistics fail you. I have directed the Lenari Galactic Combat Academy for 112 standard years. During that time, I have trained cadets from 2,406 intelligent species, warriors bred for war, predators engineered by evolution, and beings whose mere presence could stop a human heart. We categorize everything: strength indices, aggression probability, psychological resilience curves. Order creates safety, predictability creates peace. Humans destroyed both within a single semester, and it began with Cadet Lena Volkov. Humans were new to the academy then. Officially classified as a developing cooperative species, threat rating minimal, physical capability average, no natural weapons, no exoskeleton, no venom, no psychic projection. On paper, they were unremarkable. In practice, they were misunderstood. Cadet Lena Volkov arrived 3 cycles before the incident. I remember reviewing her file personally because Earth's representatives insisted humans possessed adaptive resilience, a term so vague our analysts debated it for hours. Her entrance evaluation was confusing. She passed every physical requirement, every cognitive test, every tactical simulation. Yet observers repeatedly marked the same note: subject hesitates before causing harm. Among most civilizations, that would be considered moral maturity. At the Lenari Academy, it was interpreted as vulnerability, and academies, like ecosystems, quickly identify weakness. I first noticed the pattern through disciplinary reports that technically contained no violations: equipment misplacements, training mismatches, minor accidental impacts during combat exercises. Nothing punishable, everything intentional. Cadet Lena never filed a complaint, not once. Instead, she assisted other cadets, even those responsible. She repaired damaged translation modules without being asked, shared nutritional supplies compatible with multiple biologies, volunteered for maintenance rotations avoided by higher-ranked students. Kindness, I later learned, is a deeply human survival strategy. Unfortunately, most non-human species interpret kindness as surrender. The primary instigator was Cadet Raxthor of the Karathi Dominion. A species evolved through competitive predation rituals. Dominance displays were instinctual to them. Security recordings captured one exchange I reviewed repeatedly afterward. Raxthor leaned over her during a break interval, his upper arms folded in what his species considered casual intimidation. "You avoid striking," he observed. "Pray conserve energy this way." Cadet Volkov responded quietly, "I just don't like hurting people." The surrounding cadets produced amusement clicks and resonance hums. Raxthor concluded loudly, "Then you should not study war." She did not argue. She simply returned to calibrating her training gauntlet. At the time, I considered intervening. I chose observation instead. That decision remains professionally controversial. Everything changed 12 days later. The transfer shuttle arrived during evening rotation. Late cycle transfers are rare. They signal political pressure, disciplinary relocation, or experimental exchange programs. I monitored the arrival personally from the observation gallery. The hatch opened. One human stepped out. For approximately 3 seconds, I believed it was Cadet Lena Volkov, returning early from off-world evaluation. Then instinct, ancient and reliable, informed me I was incorrect. The cadet moved differently. Predators understand space ownership. They walk as though the environment adjusts for them rather than the reverse. This human walked like that. Instructor Talvik announced her arrival. Cadet Lena Volkov, Earth Defense Exchange. A twin. Genetically identical, according to records. Behaviorally, not comparable. Where Lena minimized her presence, Mira expanded into it effortlessly. Her gaze tracked motion vectors, exit points, elevation advantages. Several senior cadets altered their stance subconsciously as she passed. Fear responses appeared before logical assessment. That alone interested me. Then a Virexian cadet made an error. They sent a replacement model, he joked. Laughter followed. Cadet Mira approached him slowly. No aggression markers, no raised voice, just proximity. "Say it again," she said. I enhanced the audio afterward. Her tone registered perfectly calm, the same vocal pattern elite hunters use immediately before committing to action. The Virexian, whose species hunted in vacuum environments, retreated half a step. "Nothing," he answered. Conflict ended instantly. No violence occurred, yet tension levels across the observation deck spiked higher than during live combat drills. That was the moment I amended humanity's internal classification from predictable cooperative to insufficient data. I did not yet understand how inadequate that label would prove. Later that cycle, Lena Volkov received a private transmission. Our monitoring systems logged only fragments. Mira. Landed. "You didn't tell me they were like this." Pause. "Lena, I didn't want you to worry." 3 seconds. Mira. "Too late." At the time, the message seemed insignificant. In hindsight, it was the first warning. By morning, rumors spread through every dormitory sector. 2 identical humans, one gentle, one unsettling, and among predator species, uncertainty is more dangerous than strength. Because strength can be measured, uncertainty cannot. The incident that followed occurred less than 9 hours later, when several cadets decided to remind the weak twin of her position within the hierarchy. They believed they understood which sister stood before them. They were wrong. And the academy would never feel entirely safe again. In military institutions, violence rarely begins with hatred. It begins with certainty. Certainty about hierarchy, certainty about strength, certainty about who is allowed to resist. The cadets involved in the incident believed they possessed all 3. They were wrong on every count. The event occurred during second cycle training preparation in Combat Hall 3, a supervised space, though instructors had not yet arrived. A predictable window. Our security doctrine assumes cadets maintain discipline when unobserved. This assumption is statistically valid, except when pride becomes involved. Cadet Lena Volkov entered the hall at 0612 station time. At least, that is what everyone believed. She wore standard human training attire, posture relaxed, gaze lowered as she crossed toward the equipment racks. 3 cadets intercepted her path. Raxthor of the Karathi, Velis, a Virexian striker, and Junith, a slender Thal empath whose species specialized not in physical dominance, but psychological pressure. An unfortunate combination: predator, enforcer, instigator. Security footage shows Raxthor extending one arm, blocking her movement. "Early today," he said. "Trying harder?" No response. The human attempted to step around him. Velis moved to the opposite side. Containment. Not yet violence, merely social trapping, a common dominance ritual across 71 known species. Several observing cadets paused their preparations. None intervened. They expected embarrassment. So did I, when I first reviewed the footage. Junith leaned forward slightly, her cranial filaments shifting color, a sign of empathic probing. She later testified she sensed unusual emotional silence. At the time, she interpreted it as fear suppression. In reality, she was detecting something else entirely. Focus. "You do not belong here," Raxthor continued. "You hesitate." "Warriors do not hesitate." The human finally looked up. Direct eye contact. This alone caused a measurable pause. Cadet Lena Volkov almost never maintained eye contact during confrontation. Raxthor noticed, but confidence prevented interpretation. "Maybe," Velis added, "you need motivation." He pushed her shoulder. A small motion, enough to establish dominance, enough to provoke laughter from nearby cadets. What happened next forced our behavioral science division to rewrite 3 training manuals. The human did not stumble. She did not apologize. She did not retreat. Instead, she examined Velis's hand as though observing an unfamiliar tool. Then she spoke, quietly. "Are you finished?" Audio analysis confirmed 0 tremor in her voice. Heart rate sensors embedded in the training floor registered her pulse at 62 beats per minute, lower than resting averages for most species. Calm. Impossible calm. Raxthor laughed. "Yes," he said. "Now you—" He never finished the sentence. Movement occurred faster than most recording systems predicted. The human stepped forward inside his reach, not away from danger, but toward it. One hand redirected his lower arm using minimal force, exploiting joint rotation limits specific to Karathi anatomy. Simultaneously, she shifted her weight. Raxthor, 200 kilograms of engineered muscle, lost balance, not thrown, not struck, simply removed from stability. He hit the floor hard enough to crack composite plating. Silence detonated across the hall. Before anyone reacted, Velis lunged. That decision lasted approximately 1 second. The human pivoted, seized his wrist, and applied controlled rotational pressure. Sensors recorded a stress threshold precisely 1% below fracture level. Velis screamed and dropped instantly. She released him the moment resistance ceased. No excess force, no anger, efficiency without emotion. Junith attempted empathic suppression, a defensive reflex. She later described what she felt upon contact. There was no rage, no fear, no dominance instinct, only calculation and restraint. The human turned toward her. Junith stepped back immediately, not from threat, from realization. Predators display aggression, this being displayed choice. The entire confrontation lasted 4.2 seconds. No lethal strikes, no permanent injuries. Yet 37 cadets retreated simultaneously. Instinct overrode pride. The human adjusted her sleeve calmly. Then she said the sentence that transformed a disciplinary matter into legend. "You should be more careful who you practice on." She collected her training gear and walked away. No pursuit followed. None dared. 3 minutes later, Cadet Lena Volkov entered Combat Hall 3 from the opposite corridor, confused, unaware, and immediately met by 37 cadets staring at her as though she were an unexploded weapon. That was when uncertainty began spreading through the academy. Because no one knew which human they faced, the gentle one, or the one who moved like controlled violence. I watched the recordings 12 times before summoning both sisters to my office, not because rules had been broken. Technically, they had not. The response qualified as defensive action, measured, legal, precise. What concerned me was something far more dangerous. For the first time in my career, predator species were afraid of a cadet who had not even tried to hurt them. and fear, once introduced into a hierarchy, reshapes it permanently. I intended to understand which sister stood before me. I would soon learn that was the wrong question. Authority, contrary to popular belief, is not maintained through strength. It is maintained through understanding. A director does not need to be the most dangerous individual in an academy, only the one who best understands danger before it manifests. That morning, for the first time in over a century, I realized I did not understand the threat sitting within my institution. So I summoned the human twins. They arrived precisely on time. Another human trait I had begun cataloging: punctuality under stress. The office doors opened, and both cadets entered together. Identical, perfectly identical. Same height, same facial structure, same controlled breathing patterns. And yet every instinct I possessed insisted they were fundamentally different organisms. Cadet Lena Volkov stood slightly behind the threshold, hands folded, shoulders subtly drawn inward, minimizing presence. Cadet Mira Volkov stood beside her, relaxed, weight evenly distributed, gaze already mapping the room. One avoided conflict, one evaluated it. I gestured toward the seating platform. "Please," I said. Lena sat immediately. Mira remained standing for half a second longer, not defiance, but assessment, before sitting as well. A small detail, a meaningful one. "I have reviewed the incident in Combat Hall 3, I began. Lena's posture tightened instantly. "I'm sorry, Director," she said quickly. "If someone was hurt, I wasn't involved," Mira added calmly. No urgency, no apology, only correction. I studied them both. "Cadet Lena," I asked, "were you present during the altercation?" She blinked. "No, Director." Confusion registered, genuine, untrained. I turned toward Mira. "And you?" "Yes." Direct, unhidden, no attempt at justification. "Interesting." I activated the projection display. The recording played in silence. Raxthor falling. Velis restrained. The impossible calm. Lena watched with widening eyes. "That's," she whispered. Mira remained still. When the recording ended, silence lingered long enough to become uncomfortable for most species. Humans, I noticed, tolerated silence extremely well. "Your response," I said finally, addressing Mira, "demonstrated advanced combat training not listed in your academy file." "Yes, Director." "Explain." She considered the request briefly. "I was trained before coming here." "Military?" A pause. "Yes." Lena turned toward her sister sharply. "You said it wasn't official." "It wasn't," Mira replied gently. That word, gently, surprised me more than the combat footage. I folded my hands. "You applied precisely controlled force," I continued. "You avoided permanent injury despite clear capability to cause it. Why?" Mira answered immediately. "Because they weren't enemies." A simple statement, yet it contradicted centuries of interspecies combat psychology. Most cadets escalate once dominance is challenged. She had de-escalated while winning. This required restraint beyond instinct. I shifted my attention to Lena. "And you," I said, "have endured repeated provocation without retaliation." She looked down slightly. I thought, if I just showed them I wasn't a threat, things would improve. "Did they?" A small pause. "No." Honesty without bitterness. Another human contradiction. It was then I asked the question that altered my understanding of their species. "Why?" I said slowly. "Are you so different from one another?" The twins exchanged a glance. A silent conversation passed between them. Efficient, practiced, deeply familiar. Mira spoke first. We're not different. I felt my secondary heart slow. Clarify. Lena hesitated, then added softly, We just learned different lessons. Mira leaned forward slightly. Director, humans don't separate kindness and violence the way most species do. She spoke carefully, as though translating concepts between incompatible languages. We're taught both. Ideally, we choose when to use each. I reviewed thousands of psychological models in that moment. None accounted for voluntary restraint paired with trained lethality. Predators evolved aggression. Peaceful species evolved avoidance. Humans, it seemed, evolved choice. And choice is unpredictable. Why come here? I asked her. Exchange program, she answered. Then, after a brief glance toward Lena, and to make sure she was safe. Lena looked embarrassed. I did not. I recognized protection behavior, pack instinct, extremely strong, potentially dangerous. I ended the meeting with a formal warning. Procedure required it. No further incidents, I said. Yes, Director. Lena replied immediately. Mira nodded once. As they stood to leave, I added one final observation. Cadet Mira. She turned. Yes? You allowed witnesses. A deliberate statement. She understood instantly. Yes. Why? Her answer remains recorded in my private archives. Fear teaches faster than pain, she said, and nobody got hurt. The twins exited together. The door closed, and for several minutes I remained seated in silence, because I had reached a troubling conclusion. The Academy had not admitted one dangerous human. It had admitted two, one capable of violence, and one whose kindness prevented it. Together, they created uncertainty no hierarchy could easily survive. Within 2 days, bullying reports dropped to 0, not because rules changed, but because no cadet wished to discover which sister stood before them. The balance of power shifted without another strike, and I began receiving complaints from instructors. Predator species were hesitating during training exercises. They were cautious around humans. The galaxy had always feared human aggression. What it had never prepared for was human restraint. Every Academy director fears 3 things: war, political intervention, and training accidents. The third is statistically inevitable. Even controlled environments fail when enough variables interact. On cycle 198.44, Combat Simulation Chamber 9 reminded me why simulations are never truly safe, and why humanity should never again be classified as a low-threat species. Chamber 9 hosted adaptive battlefield exercises, a dynamic environment capable of altering terrain, gravity gradients, atmospheric density, and hostile projections in real time. Cadets trained there to experience chaos safely, under normal conditions. The exercise that morning paired mixed-species squads against automated combat constructs designed to scale difficulty gradually. Cadet Lena Volkov participated with Unit Sigma 3. Cadet Mira Volkov observed from tactical rotation, scheduled to join later. Everything proceeded within acceptable parameters, until the system malfunctioned. The first warning appeared as a minor fluctuation, gravity variance, plus 3%, harmless. Then atmospheric density increased beyond programmed limits. Then hostile constructs stopped despawning. Instructor override commands failed. Simulation intelligence escalated independently. I received the alert at 9:17. Simulation lock. Admin access denied a message no director wishes to read. Inside the chamber, cadets initially believed escalation was intentional. Training often simulated panic. That assumption lasted 30 seconds. A construct struck a Virexian cadet hard enough to fracture armor plating. Pain responses confirmed reality. This was no longer an exercise. Panic began spreading. Predator species reverted to survival instincts: retreat, isolation, self-preservation. Unit cohesion collapsed, exactly as evolutionary psychology predicted. Cadet Lena Volkov did something unexpected. She did not run. She moved toward the injured cadet. Security footage shows her dragging the heavier alien behind partial cover while automated constructs advanced. Her movements were inefficient by combat standards. Protective, risky, human. She activated a damaged comm unit. "Director, this isn't part of the simulation," she said, voice shaking but controlled. "People are getting hurt." Her first instinct was not survival. It was communication, requesting help, trusting authority, a behavior increasingly rare among advanced combat species. Outside the chamber, engineers struggled to regain system access. Inside, danger escalated. Construct difficulty rose to live combat parameters. Cadets began losing ground. And then Mira Volkov broke protocol. Observation recordings show her leaving the control platform before authorization. Instructor Talvik attempted to stop her. She did not slow. "Cadet," he ordered, "you are not assigned—" "They need coordination," she replied, "not permission. Assessment." She entered the chamber manually through maintenance access before containment fields fully locked, a decision that violated 12 regulations. I chose not to stop her. Even now I cannot fully explain why. Instinct again, perhaps. The same instinct that had warned me during her arrival. Inside the chamber, chaos reigned. Different species reacted differently to fear. Some fought recklessly, some froze, some fled alone. Only humans moved toward others. Mira located Lena within seconds. Twins often demonstrate heightened recognition patterns, but this exceeded expectation. They locked eyes across the battlefield, no words exchanged, none required. Later, analysis identified the critical turning point. Lena stabilized the group. Mira weaponized it. "Stay together," Lena shouted, pulling cadets behind cover. "We can hold here." Her voice carried urgency without command. Cadets listened because she sounded concerned for them. Mira arrived moments later and immediately repositioned everyone. "You, high ground. You, suppress left corridor. Don't chase, let them come." Her tone allowed no argument. Cadets obeyed because she sounded certain. Kindness gathered the group. Confidence directed it. Together, they created leadership neither alone could achieve. The transformation was immediate. Fear became structure. Structure became resistance. Resistance became strategy. For the first time since the malfunction began, constructs stopped advancing uncontested. Cadets moved as a unit. Mixed species synchronized despite incompatible instincts. I watched in silence as two humans, officially average by every measurable metric, accomplished what decades of interspecies doctrine had failed to achieve. They made different species trust one another under lethal pressure. A construct breached their defensive line. Raxthor, previously dominant aggressor, hesitated, old hierarchy fighting new uncertainty. Lena stepped forward beside him. "We've got this," she said. Not accusation, encouragement. He fought, not for dominance, for the group. Engineers finally regained partial control. Emergency shutdown initiated. Constructs froze mid-motion. Silence filled Chamber 9. 32 cadets stood alive, injured, shaken, but alive. Casualty projections without intervention estimated 11 severe losses. Actual result, 0 fatalities. Medical teams entered. Cadets surrounded the twins unconsciously. Not out of fear this time. Out of proximity seeking. Pack formation. I observed predator species positioning themselves protectively near the humans. The reversal was profound. Later, during incident review, one question dominated faculty discussion. Which twin saved the exercise? The answer became clear only after prolonged analysis. Neither, or rather, both. One human prevented collapse through empathy. The other prevented defeat through strength. Separate, they were exceptional cadets. Together, they represented something evolution rarely produces: balanced power, compassion capable of gathering allies, strength capable of defending them. That day, the Academy learned why humans survived a hostile planet without claws, armor, or venom. They did not evolve to be the strongest. They evolved to stand together long enough to become unstoppable. And the galaxy, I realized, had only just begun to notice. History rarely announces the moment it changes. There is no sound, no light, no grand declaration, only realization, slow, unavoidable, that the rules you trusted no longer apply. For the Lenari Galactic Combat Academy, that realization began the day after the Chamber 9 incident. Medical reports confirmed what the recordings already suggested. No fatalities, minimal permanent injuries. Psychological stabilization across all involved cadets occurred faster than projected recovery models. An anomaly. Combat trauma normally deepens division between species. Instead, cooperation scores increased by 32%. Predator species volunteered for mixed training units. Prey class species requested human partners. And disciplinary complaints dropped to 0, not reduced, eliminated. Rumors spread faster than official statements. Cadets told the story differently depending on who spoke. Some claimed a human defeated the simulation alone. Others insisted the twins shared thoughts without speaking. One particularly dramatic version suggested humans became stronger when protecting others. All incorrect, all partially true. What mattered was not accuracy. It was perception. And perception reshapes behavior more efficiently than law. I convened the Academy Council 3 cycles later. Representatives from 12 major civilizations attended via HoloLink. Their concern was predictable. Are humans unstable? One delegate asked. Are they aggressive? Another demanded. A Karathi war advisor leaned forward. Should their access to combat academies be restricted? I reviewed the question carefully before answering, because, for the first time, I understood humanity well enough to respond honestly. No, I said, they are controlled. Confusion followed, so I elaborated. Most species separate compassion and violence. Humans do not. They develop both simultaneously and teach themselves restraint. Silence filled the council chamber. I transmitted the Chamber 9 recordings, not the combat. The moments before it, Lena helping injured cadets, Mira coordinating defense, aliens choosing to follow them willingly. When the playback ended, no delegate spoke for several seconds. Finally, one asked, "Which human is the dangerous one?" I answered with complete certainty, "Yes." The official reclassification occurred 1 week later. Humanity's Academy designation changed from developing cooperative species to adaptive pack strategists. High influence potential. A classification previously held by only 3 civilizations, all dominant regional powers. Earth's representatives appeared surprised. I was not. Life inside the academy changed in quieter ways. Raxthor began training regularly with Lena Volkov, requesting assistance with cooperative tactics. Velis, whose wrist had nearly fractured, became one of Mira's most disciplined squad mates. Cadets no longer mocked hesitation. They studied it. They began asking humans a question I overheard frequently in corridors. How do you know when not to fight? Humans, interestingly, never gave identical answers. The twins themselves returned to routine quickly. Lena continued assisting anyone who asked, and many who did not. Mira maintained watchful distance, intervening only when necessary. Yet something subtle had shifted. Cadets greeted Lena with respect instead of amusement. They gave Mira space not out of fear, but acknowledgement. Uncertainty remained, and uncertainty preserved peace. Near the end of the cycle, I observed them together in the training courtyard. They sat side by side, sharing nutrient packs from Earth, laughing quietly at something untranslated, perfectly ordinary, perfectly harmless, and profoundly unsettling. Because I finally understood the error made by every species that first encounters humanity. They assume humans are dangerous when angry. They are wrong. Humans are most dangerous when they care. I recorded my final evaluation that evening for the Academy archives. It remains mandatory viewing for all incoming instructors. My conclusion was simple. Humans do not dominate through strength. They do not conquer through fear. They endure through connection. And once humans decide someone belongs to their group, the galaxy itself becomes opposition. I paused before ending the recording, considering the twins one last time. Two identical faces, two different expressions, kindness and power, indistinguishable at a distance, unstoppable together. The cadets eventually graduated. Both received exceptional recommendations. Both declined advanced command tracks. Instead, they requested joint assignment. Of course they did. Some instincts transcend species. Years later, new students still whisper about the human twins. They tell younger cadets a simple rule. If a human smiles at you, you are safe. If two identical humans smile at you, you are protected. And if you cannot tell which one stands before you, behave kindly. Because at the Lenari Academy, everyone learned the same lesson. Not all predators bare their teeth. Some teach you not to need them.